Hello and welcome to Dr. St. Peter's SPSS tutorials. I'm Dr. Megan St. Peters, and today I'm just going to introduce you to the software, what it looks like and how to enter data. So let's get started. When you open SPSS, you're going to have this welcome screen. It allows you to either access sample files, your previously saved files, or you can start a new data set. Now we're going to start a new data set, but before we do, I just want to call your attention to the sample files. The extensions in particular. Notice the sample files all end in .sav. That's the extension for SPSS data files. Now SPSS saves data in two formats. It has your data file that has your actual numbers and information that you've collected from the research, and then when you run your analysis it's going to save output, and the output files will have a different extension .spo. So whenever you have a .sav or a .spo, notice that you can only open those files when you have SPSS installed on a computer. Okay, so we are going to go to New Data Set, and it will just be a second, and here we go. Here's a new data set. So in our data editor, so this would be a file that you would save as a .sav, we have two different views here. So like how Excel has bottom tabs where you can switch between windows, this isn't quite the same. This is going to be the same data, just two different views. You have your data view and your variable view. The data view is where you enter numbers, and then the variable view is where you describe the data and what it is. So for instance, if I wanted to look at people's ages, I could go to this first column and enter some ages, and then maybe I also want to look at some IQs, so I'll put some IQs here. So for most data where it's between subjects, what we're going to do is each column will be a single variable. So I might say that this is an 18-year-old that scored 105 on the IQ test. This might be a 20-year-old who scored a 98. This would be a 21-year-old who scored a 110. So each row is a single person with all of their data, and each column is a single variable. Okay, so now that I have a few numbers in there, you don't want to have to remember what variable 00001 is and variable 00002. There's a way to change these. So this is data view. This is where you actually enter your numbers, but we're going to go down here and switch to variable view. This is the same file, just two different ways of looking at it. For name, we can now name our variables. So I want to name that first one age, and then the bottom one I might do IQ. You always want to make sure it's numeric. You can't do statistical analyses if they're string. So sometimes when you copy and paste from like an Excel file or a table, you just want to make sure it still has it as numeric. I like to always have two decimals. The labels are, if you're going to have a lot of files, you might want to write like what they actually mean, research questions or more information there. I typically leave them blank. The values are going to be if you have numbers representing different columns. So let's do another one here where I put sex, and then we'll do where ones, and we'll enter ones and twos. So I click on the values, I'm going to click ones and twos. So 1, 2, and we'll do male and female. So if we do that, then that would be a nominal variable. So I'm going to go over to measure and make that nominal. And then the other two were both scale. If you set your measures correctly, it's going to help guide you through the correct statistical test to perform. Okay, so then in variable view, each row is the description of one variable. So we have age in row 1, IQ in row 2, and sex in row 3. Now I didn't enter any data for sex, so I'm going to just go back to data view, and then you could enter ones and twos, because you don't want to write words in here. I also like in the data view, once you have it correctly set up, you'll have little symbols by each name, so it kind of tells you what the scale of measurement is. So these three little circles mean it's nominal, and the scale means it's scale or interval ratio. Okay, so that's an introduction to how to input data in SPSS. The one last little trick I'm going to show you is I typically recommend that you go to Edit and Options, and before you run any analyses, set your charts and pivot tables to APA. So just pull down to APA and then click Apply, and then do pivot tables. Click either of these APA. I like the sans serif. Click Apply and click OK. You only have to do that once, and it's just going to get your output to look more like APA style. It won't be perfect, but I have another video that I'll show you how to create tables and figures in APA format. So again, this is one file. If we now save this file as an example file, notice it's going to end in the extension .sav because that's your data file. And if it was an output file, it would save it as a .spo. All right, thanks for watching.